Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us to our second webinar for 2024. Today, we are going to talk about psychometric assessments for recruitment and selection. Then on the topic running is understanding how psychometric assessments aid recruitment. Speaking here is Fiona Dandato. I'm a registered industrial psychologist and I work with EPZ Global. Thank you for having us this afternoon. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is about the recruitment process. So in the recruitment process, finding the right people for the right roles at the right time is crucial for any organization. That is to ensure its workforce has the skills and competences required to achieve its aims whilst effectively meeting the needs and wants of the customers. So as an organization, it usually starts with the recruitment, and this recruitment involves these stages. First of all, you identify the hiring requirements, or the organization or the HR department or even any department identifies the hiring requirements. What kind of human resource do we want on the job or on the organization? Then we create the job description of the particular role that is to be recruited. Then there comes talent search, then shortlisting and screening, interviewing, evaluation and employment offer, then introduction and induction of the new employees. So this is the recruitment process that we go through. But we can't run away from the recruitment process without the selection process. Obviously, we can recruit, but there comes a time when we want to select the rightful candidate. The selection process can be defined as the process of selection and shortlisting of the right candidates with the necessary qualifications and skill set to fill the vacancies in an organization. Obviously, when we advertise for a job or a vacancy, there are a lot of applications that come. Definitely, and we have to select. So there comes the selection process. So an organization usually use the following selection tools. Firstly, we have the preliminary interviews. Okay, sorry for that. So firstly, we have the preliminary interviews or preliminary screening, whereby we are selecting which qualifications amongst the pool of candidates that we have recruited are meeting the specific job requisitions. Then number two, we do a selection test. Some can have a psychometric tests there. Some can have internal kind of tests whereby they are looking for values if the candidate meets the values of the organization. Then we can have the employment interview, which is more familiar to most of us. Then the reference and background checks. Then the selection decision comes into play. Then the medical examination, if it depends with the company policy. Then the job offer. Then the contract of employment is the last step. So these are the processes that go through the selection process in an organization. But today we are going to talk about one of the selection process, which is the psychometric test. So psychometric test as a selection tool. The objective of a psychometric test is to select employees using well-researched psychometric tests. Then it increases the fairness and objectivity of the selection process. So this means that employees can be selected on merit using fair and standardized tests rather than subjective or biased selection methods. From the recruitment and selection process, all the methods that we were using, some of them are subjective, but we are saying psychometric tests are more standardized and scientific in particular. So on top of those traditional methods that we know about selection, employers use psychometric tests to seek the following out of an employee or a candidate. So we are seeking employee values. So do they match with the organization and the job specifics? I understand each and every organization has common values that can be known by each and every individual or employee who works in that organization. So there are also psychometric tests that can be used to match or even to find out if the employee we are hiring has the same values that are part of the organization, or can they match the values that are being practiced within that organization? Then we are hiring, or we are doing this for potential. We are looking for potential to be developed, potential to perform, potential to exceed the expected. So, and also we do these assessments to understand employee strengths, employee weaknesses, or potential derailers. Then we develop and identify leaders. So generally, when we are conducting a psychometric test, this tool is helping us to get a deeper understanding of the candidate before we engage the candidate on board. Can this candidate be developed? Can this candidate be committed on the work? Can he or she perform well? Can he or she exceed the expected demands of the position, or even meet the expected demands of this position? So that is where psychometric testing comes handy. But what are they? What are these psychometric tests? Psychometric tests are a way to measure a candidate's skill, personality traits, abilities, and aptitudes using scientifically validated assessment tools or tests in greater depth than our usual traditional methods, as mentioned in the previous slide. Remember the other traditional methods that we used, for example, shortlisting, they are just subjective. We just look at your degree. Did you do HR? Yes, we put it to the side. Did you do psychology? Yes, we put it at the side. But now we are using a scientific method to gain a deeper understanding of the candidate, a deeper knowledge of the candidate before we engage the candidate. So testing in psychometric assessments is usually based on questionnaires, judgments, and personality tests, which aim to get deeper insights on how a candidate will perform in the position they're applying for. So we are predicting behavior. We are predicting performance. We are predicting potential. We are predicting ability to be developed into the next career ladder or even the next career path. So psychometric assessments objectively measure a candidate's behavioral style, the aptitude, skill set, abilities, personality traits, and intelligence. Furthermore, when we talk about psychometric tests, we can't run away from reliability, validity, and standardization. So when we talk about standardization, test standardization ensures that conditions are similar as possible for all individuals who are given the test. Standardization also ensures that no matter who gives the test and scores, or even who scores it, the results should be the same. So when we are assessing you using psychometric assessment, we are saying that the environment that you have written the test should be the same for all candidates. And also the tests should be the same. And also how you write the test should be the same. The time taken to take the test should be the same. So we will be comparing you to other candidates who have written the same test under the same conditions. So that's where test standardization comes. Then we are looking at reliability. Consistent measurement time after time, typically demonstrated statistically or with test-retest studies. So we are saying this test we are using on you, we have tested other graduate trainees. We are now testing another graduate trainee. Then we are testing another graduate trainee. So there comes the reliability of the test. Then validity. The test measures what it says it measures, typically demonstrated in multiple ways over time. For example, if you are measuring verbal ability, obviously in every job spec, there is a content, content that you will have to apply a certain verbal reasoning ability concept. So we are saying this test, if you are to be doing something that is verbal, is it measuring that verbal ability? If it's you are doing something that is going to be numerical, is it measuring that numerical ability? If it's measuring something, if you are going to do something that is logical, is it measuring that logical ability? So there comes the validity part of the psychometric test. So we can't run away from reliability, validity, and standardization. So these are some of the uses of psychometric tests. Psychometric testing has become a very common practice, with majority of companies reporting that they use some form of psychometric tests as part of their recruitment process. So they are used for personal selection. Remember, we said we use this as a selection tool. We are to spot candidates who best fit a position. So it's used in personal selection. Then individual development training. Training needs analysis, whereby where we want to develop a certain candidate, we test using this psychometric assessments to identify key strengths and key weaknesses. We cannot call them weaknesses, but they are developmental areas that the candidate has to be developed in order to reach expected level of performance. So they are used as part of a training needs analysis. Then team building and development. For example, if you want to see how our team is characterized with, is it characterized with extroverts? Is it characterized with introverts? Is it characterized by people who are judging, people who are sympathetic? How best can we deal with our team if it's full of people who are too talkative or people who are too outgoing? So that comes the aspect of team building and development. Then career development progression. We've got career tests that we use to help profile a career path for any individual. For example, if it's students who want to identify which subjects can I pursue, or which career path can I pursue, we have those assessments that can profile the candidate or the student with the rightful career that matches the personality and also preferences. Then leadership potential. We're looking at the HIPPO profile. Where is the potential? How can we develop this kind of candidate? And if it's in the organization, do we have leaders in the organization? Do we have leaders who have potential of growing the business further, of putting the business to another level? So there comes the issue of leadership potential assessment. Then leadership development. For example, we've got a supervisor whom we want to promote to be a manager. These are the rightful tests. Where can we develop this candidate so that he can be a better manager, he can be a better supervisor, he can be a better executive, or even a CEO. Then ability assessment. Where are you good and where can we develop you? So these are some of the psychometric test uses that we use them for. Then why use psychometric tests? Remember, this is a scientific tool. It's not a subjective tool. So definitely will reduce bias. To identify the best qualified candidates, you wouldn't want to waste money hiring somebody, then after 3 months, after probation, you find that the candidate can't perform. So you will definitely want to identify the best candidate, and that's an A for the organization. To make more informed hiring decisions. Remember, this is a tool. It's not the only tool that can be used. Maybe you're going to use an interview. You're going to use a reference check. You're going to use a psychometric. You're going to use any other form of selection tool. So if that candidate is good in all these 4 that I have mentioned, then you are making a good hiring decision. So you need to be informed before you make a decision. Then definitely you are saving money. You can't run away from investing in psychometric assessments, then later getting the best. So you have saved a lot other than keep on recruiting and selecting and getting a bed higher. So you save a lot of money. So let's talk about the psychometric tests that you might be familiar with or you might have come across with. So they fall into 3 broad categories. We have got the aptitude test, the intelligence test, then the personality or behavioral assessments. So when we talk about intelligence tests, we are talking about the IQ, the intelligent quotient, the learning capacity, the application of new knowledge, specific analysis and synthesis skills, the capacity and the facility for decision making, initiative and proactively in problem solving, adaptation to changes. So these are the intelligence tests. So we'll be looking at your spatial reasoning, your general reasoning, your natural reasoning. For example, your general intellectual effectiveness. How do you reason generally? You'll be asked general questions about your reasoning. Then you can be asked about your musical, if maybe you're applying for a job that is related to music. Then logical mathematics, for example, you're given numbers 2, 4, 6, which number comes next? So it's general, it's just logical mathematics, it's general intelligence. Then coordinating your mind, finding the right words to express what you mean. For example, you can be told that good is to bad, and maybe bad is to good. So it's just coordinating those words. It's general intelligence that anyone should have. So this is another type of test. Then we have got aptitude and skills tests. Psychometric tests of aptitudes and skills measure job skills and competences, the applicant's potential in the development of professional practices. Usually these kind of tests, you find them in the professional field. For example, the verbal reasonings, the numerical reasonings, the abstract reasonings, the spatial ability, the data checking, clerical checking, mechanical reasoning, or even work sampling. So these are more professional in the sense that all jobs that are counted in the professional field are usually hinged on these kind of skills tests or aptitude test. I understand if you're a manager or if you're a supervisor or if you're a graduate trainee, you need verbal ability. You need to read memos, you need to read maybe articles, you need to write maybe announcements or even anything, minutes. So these are critical tests that you find along the aptitude and skills test. Then the personality tests. Psychometric personality tests seek to qualify the ability of applicants to interpret situations, adapt, relate, handle internal conflicts, develop social skills. So when we are assessing your personality, we are generally looking at these 4 areas. How dominant are you? Are you direct? Are you results-oriented? Are you firm? Are you strong-willed? Are you forceful? Then influence, are you outgoing? Are you enthusiastic, optimistic, high-spirited, or even lively? Are you analytical? Are you reserved? Are you precise? Are you private? Are you systematic? Are you even-tempered, accommodating, patient, humble, tactful? So what happens is when we get a job description for being given to us for a psychometric test, we look at these skills, then we try to match the job with the person. So we only give you this person is direct, but maybe the job wants someone who is reserved. So there comes the decision making based on scientific. This person is direct, but we want someone who is reserved. Can we compromise that, then develop him to say, when we want to do our job, can you be reserved, or can we develop you to be more practical, to be more analytical, to be more private, or I don't know. So that there comes the developing part when we are dealing with personality tests. So also psychometric tests, but there are psychometric test batteries. A psychometric test battery refers to a collection of tests, and it measures designed to assess an individual's psychological attributes, such as intelligence, personality, aptitude, and behavior. So depending on the position you're applying for, you can be assessed using either a graduate trainee test battery, a managerial test battery, a supervisory test battery, an executive test battery, apprentice test battery, or even a clerical test battery. So from our database, when you bring to us, when we are given a job description, we ask, is this a graduate trainee? If it's a graduate trainee, we have tests that match the graduate trainee level, because there is danger when we give you an executive test battery, yet we are assessing you for a graduate trainee. So we are no longer standardizing, and we are no longer giving you a test that matches your level of entry. So when you come for psychometric assessments, we have to know which level are we assessing you based on the job description that we have been given. So there are frequently asked questions in psychometric assessments. So I'll tackle some of these, but I'll give you time to ask. Number one, what are the basic test instructions? Normally, when you are assigned to do a psychometric assessment, you are told of the duration of the test. So the process takes about 3 to 4 hours, whereby you are going to go through those battery of tests I have been talking about. Then each test is timed. You are told this test has got 15 minutes for 50 questions or for 60 questions. Then you are also told You are not allowed to use a calculator. You can use a calculator. Those are some of the instructions that you can be given. You can take breaks in between. For example, when you have finished a timed test, before you start another test, you can take a break. That's the duration of the test. Then the timer begins automatically when you start the test. Due to technology, we are now doing the test online. So once you click start, the timer starts to run. Then when 15 minutes lapse after the duration, it automatically switches off the test. Then you are also told the total number of questions. It's highlighted there. Then if it's a multiple choice, there'll be options and only one of the answers is correct. So you can either answer the question or skip it. But you remember, you can even go back to that skipped question, then you put the correct one. Maybe if you need time to analyze it or even to read it further. So you can skip a question, then you can go back to that question later. Then there comes another question. Do you provide any demo or practice questions? We don't. Unfortunately, we don't. We do not have any demo or practice tests. But if people ask us this question, you may wish to practice, we refer you to online sources. There are a lot of online sources that you can utilize or make use of so that you can practice before you go for a psychometric test. Then, how do I perform on the test? Prepare for the psychometric test. Remember, I've said there are a lot of batteries that are involved in psychometric test. So you have to know which battery of test am I to practice on. If I'm going for a supervisory test, a supervisory position, psychometric, then you tackle the supervisory test battery test. So you prepare for the psychometric test. Get familiar with the types of questions employers may ask based on the level you're applying for. Then overcome your nerves. Some people fail because of fear. That anxiety, we don't want it. So usually people with high anxiety, they can panic and it affects the whole performance. So be sure when you're going for a psychometric test, you overcome your nerves and be calm and composed as possible and be confident when you're doing the assessments. Then you work out how much time you're likely to have on each question so you can pace yourself. There's no place that doesn't need a strategy. You may need to strategize. For example, remember I had said each question has got a specific duration. So for example, it's 10 minutes for 10 questions. Strategize, I have to spend a minute on each question. If I don't know it, let me skip it and go to the next question. Maybe it will take me 30 seconds to answer it. Then I'll come back and spend more time on the one that needs a lot of thinking. So you need to be strategic in how you respond to each question. Then learn tips to make sure you perform your best. There are a lot of tips, especially if you go online, on how to do, maybe it could be a diagrammatic question or it could be an abstract type of question where you have diagrams. If you practice those diagrams, you actually get tips on how to perform at your best. Then you can perform well. Then another question is there a pass or fail in psychometric tests? So there is no pass or fail in psychometric testing. In other words, you can't actually fail a psychometric test, but it's providing you and others with a very revealing insight into your cognitive abilities and character. In other words, we're just saying this is you. This is Fiona. The cognitive reasoning is on this level. Then managerial competencies are on this level. It could be executive competencies are on this level. The personality, this is her personality. This is Fiona, or this is the candidate. So we compare you to others who have written the same test under the same conditions. So we are saying we have tested 100 candidates. So Fiona is in the average of those candidates whom we have tested. So there is no pass or fail. So people often worry unduly about having to undergo a psychometric test. So please don't worry, there is no pass or fail. So this is the end of my presentation. I'll take questions. Any questions? Any questions? Seems there are no questions at the moment, and I think everyone has understood how psychometric assessments aids recruitment. I thank you all for joining us, and I wish you a lovely day. Thank you.